What's going on? What's upper? Here recently, I made a statement in a previous video. It's one of my Brandon Brandon Jennings videos. I think it's part 2, where I mentioned Isiah Thomas, IT, is better than the 80s Isiah Thomas. And I fucking stand on that. So it seems I ruffled some feathers when I said it, and rightfully so. Because fuck Isiah Thomas from the 80s, nigga. One of the most overrated players in NBA history. You heard it here first. As you can see, the numbers here we're comparing. Yeah, Isiah Thomas Sr., let's just call him Isiah Thomas Sr. Isiah Thomas Sr. has better numbers. He played longer, 13 seasons. In that 13 seasons, Isiah Thomas was never an MVP. The closest he ever got to winning was 5th in the voting. And that was early in his career, 1983-84. Yeah, he was a perennial all-star. He was first team All-NBA 3 times. But Isiah Thomas really benefited a lot from the time period he played. Back in that day, if you were 6'1" and you had game, you were going to play. It wasn't like these days, where if you're under 6 foot or 6 foot, 6'1", even 6'2", more than likely you're not going to play. And if you do, it's not going to be as much. The only player in the NBA right now that they're playing like that at that size and height is Trae Young. And maybe you could say John Morant, but John Morant is super athletic. But outside of that, guys 6'2" and under, they're not playing like they used to back in the early days of the NBA. Like, let's say the 80s and 90s more specifically. You had players like Spud Webb playing, starting. You had players like Muggsy Bogues playing, starting. And then you had players like Isiah Thomas, Allen Iverson. So they had more faith in players that were smaller back then, or say 6'2" and under. So that's a lot of the reason why Isiah Thomas had I'm not sure longer. I had to bring Isiah Jr.'s numbers up. But Isiah Thomas played 13 years and was pretty much a starter every year he played for the Detroit Pistons. The only reason why Isiah Thomas Jr., it may seem like he had one good year, because that's what some lame ass nigga said in my comments. Isiah Thomas, IT, had one good year. So what, nigga? It's a totally different NBA. A player like that, they're not going to invest in a player at that size. Even though Isiah Thomas led the Boston Celtics to the Eastern Conference Finals. Led them. Something Isiah Thomas Sr. never did with the Detroit Pistons. Led them. Isiah Thomas Jr. led the Boston Celtics to the Eastern Conference Finals. And before he got hurt, he was killing. And has always been a killer since he was at the University of Washington. The only thing Isiah Thomas Sr. has on our team, Isiah Thomas Jr., are the assists. Isiah Thomas for his career averaged 9.3 assists a game. Isiah Thomas Jr. wasn't that type of player. He was more of a scorer and a leader. Isiah Thomas Sr., he was just a nigga that was good. And a nigga that played on, let me just get to the point, man. Get the fuck out of here with the 1980s Detroit Pistons, the bad boy Pistons. Isiah Thomas didn't do shit with the Pistons until 1988-89 and 1989-90. Prior to that, the Detroit Pistons were getting their ass whooped by the Celtics and whoever else, but mainly the Celtics. The Bulls, they were fairly young still and hadn't come into their own. But I'll get back to that in a minute. But the Detroit Pistons, they were good, but they weren't some fucking great team like people try to make them out to be. Isiah Thomas was drafted in 1981, didn't win a fucking championship until 1988-89, almost 10 years. Finished fifth. That was the closest he got to being MVP. And yeah, he averaged 21 points, 11 assists, 21 points, 13 assists, 20 points, 10 assists, 20 points, 10 assists. Then after that, his assist numbers fell off and his points. He didn't average 20 points a game anymore. But that's when he wasn't playing with anyone and he had the green light and he could do that. Score a bunch of points, get a bunch of assists. And like I said, that's when the NBA believed in players in his size and actually gave them an opportunity. Players like Kevin Johnson, Isiah Thomas, like I said, Muggsy Bogues, Spud Webb. Players that small wouldn't get an opportunity these days unless they're just shooting the fucking lights out like a Trae Young. But if Trae Young played back in these times, Trae Young wasn't like a Spud Webb or a Muggsy Bogues who was just solid, who could guard somebody 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", because of their mass and because they were solid individuals as far as their build. Man, Trae Young played back in the 80s or 90s. As a matter of fact, Trae Young wouldn't be in the NBA in the 80s or 90s. Because, yeah, you can shoot, my guy, but what you going to do on defense? When niggas like Gary Payton post you up, Mark Jackson post you up, Sam Cassell post you up and get you in foul trouble, and then you can't play because of that. Coaches ain't going to start you or play you as much as they do now. The only exception in our time that I'm talking about here in the last 10 years is Isiah Thomas and goddamn my nigga that went to Washington too. That's what they have in common. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. Nate Robinson. And probably one of the best niggas under 6 foot ever. Nate Robinson. But as you can see, Nate Robinson was a beast, and they didn't even give him a chance like that. So Isiah Thomas Sr. benefited from the time he played. And by 88, 89, 89, 90, when they won their 2 championships, they had other players like a Bill Laimbeer. Joe Dumars finally came into the picture. Dennis Rodman, who at that time in the 80s was a monster. That's really where he made his name in the 80s playing with the Pistons. Then they had Mark Aguirre. After that, they acquired Adrian Dantley. Man, if they didn't have those players, the Pistons would have never been shit and never won shit. And they definitely weren't going to win shit with Isiah Thomas leading them. Isiah Thomas led the Boston Celtics to the Eastern Conference Finals. And the only reason why they didn't give him a contract and keep him on the team and as the leader is because they didn't believe in the little man like they used to. And he got injured. And that's the reason why nobody really gave him no one really gave him the keys prior to playing for Boston. It's because the league was different and they did not believe in players his size and height. Well, not his size, because Isiah Thomas is solid. He could have played in the 80s and 90s and been good because he's solid and he plays defense. And he's a clutch player. You get that ball to Isiah Thomas when you need a bucket, he's going to get that bucket, no matter how big he is or how tall he is. So that's why it may seem like, oh, Isiah Thomas only had one good year. Yeah, he only had one good year because he was only allowed to have one good year. The fuck out of here. Isiah Thomas, senior, he wasn't all that hot in the 80s until the late 80s when the Detroit Pistons finally built a team. Now let me get on the success of that Detroit Pistons team. That Detroit Pistons team was good, but that Detroit Pistons team was not one of the fucking best teams ever in the NBA. Let me tell you something about that weak ass Detroit Pistons team for real, for real. They found a loophole in the system and exploited it. That is the only reason why they were able to get two championships in the 13 years that Isiah Thomas played for them. 2 championships. And yeah, they were back to back. And you want to know why? They were playing a bullshit brand of basketball. And they found a loophole in the system where they could do that and not be penalized like after. The Detroit Pistons used to foul motherfuckers, start fights, just do dumb, ignorant shit for no reason, damn near trying to hurt motherfuckers and shit. Yeah, the game is physical. We want it to be physical. We want it to be competitive, all that shit. Especially in the 80s. But man, the Pistons were doing absolutely too much. They out there trying to hurt motherfuckers for real, bro. You supposed to play the game and be physical and compete, but we ain't trying to hurt nobody like to the point where we could damn near end their career or really like seriously injure them and take a chunk out of their career. That's what the Pistons were on, man. And other teams were like, bro, I mean, we ain't soft. We can play like that, bro. We trying to play basketball, and we're trying to focus on winning, carrying out our game plan and our strategy. We ain't trying to worry about fighting and having to worry about, when they come in here, knock him on the ground. Yeah, I mean, you can do that, but at the same time, don't do it to where you like seriously, intentionally trying to hurt a motherfucker. Yeah, knock me to the ground. I come in this motherfucker. But bro, you start really like swinging your arms, coming down, pushing me while I'm in the air and vulnerable. Bro, what the fuck is that? That is the only reason. And the Pistons got away with that shit because the rules at that time, it was just a foul. They weren't kicking you out the game. They weren't giving you a technical, a flagrant. It was just a foul. And they knew they could get away with that shit. Other teams, they're like, man, all that is cool, but we're not playing like that because we're not thinking to play like that. Because we're playing the game the right way. Then what it took was Michael Jordan. That's why he's the greatest. Because the NBA really didn't care until Michael Jordan started being a victim of that shit. Because I can't believe a lot of the Pistons games when they were dubbed the bad boy Pistons. Fuck out of here. I can't believe that those games even finished and played out in their entirety. There should have been brawls and fights every night. The way the Detroit Pistons were playing, it'd have been the Malice at the Palace every night. Or fights like the other day with the new Detroit Pistons would happen every night. To the point where we can't even finish the game, man. That's how ridiculous and how bullshit and dumb the brand of basketball the Pistons were playing at that time in the 80s. But it took a player like Michael Jordan to come around for the NBA to be like, oh, nah, yeah, y'all doing too much, bro. We got somebody who's a motherfucking cash cow who's going to make not only this league better, he's going to make y'all better in regards to y'all pockets. Nigga, everything is about to go up with Michael Jordan in the league. We ain't about to let y'all hurt him because, first of all, y'all jealous of him. And second, because y'all want to exploit the system that y'all found a loophole in. Isiah Thomas wasn't no fucking leader. A fucking gang leader. Wasn't no goddamn leader. He used to always lose his head. He used to always do weird shit. He's over there choking coaches and shit, getting into fights and shit. He ain't no fucking leader. The leader of that team was Joe Dumars. The nigga that was level headed. The nigga that was cool. The nigga that really didn't indulge in all that bad boy shit and really didn't relish in all that bad boy shit. The nigga that just played basketball. He was the leader because he had the coolest head. You had Dennis Rodman out there, Bill Laimbeer, the other nigga with the gap that I really didn't like. I'd have punched that nigga in his mouth playing against him. What was his name, man? The other nigga, Bill Laimbeer's counterpart. And he had Isiah Thomas. So you had 4 hothead motherfuckers on the floor at the same time and Joe Dumars. And really Mark Aguirre, like I said, the first year. And then Adrian Dantley the second year. Those are really the players that put the Pistons over the hump. Not Isiah Thomas. Motherfuckers think Isiah Thomas is just this great player. And I'm talking about Isiah Thomas Sr. They think he's just this great player because he was a perennial all-star in the 80s, because he was dribbling the ball. I guess he was dribbling the ball better than a lot of point guards at that time. Man, give me a break, man. Isiah Thomas wasn't a better ball handler than Pistol Pete Maravich. And he wasn't a better point guard than Magic Johnson. So get the fuck out of here with Isiah Thomas Sr. Yes, Isiah Thomas Jr. is better than Isiah Thomas Sr., nigga. Isiah Thomas Jr. has a better jump shot, better ball handling, a cooler head, and he's more clutch. Now let's go back to the Detroit Pistons. Before I do, I don't give a fuck about what the numbers say, because you always have to add context to the numbers. I've seen both of them play. Isiah Thomas, like I said, was a hothead out there, and if he was a leader, he wasn't a real leader. He was a gang leader. The type of leader he was is not good for a team. Like I said, the only reason why they got away with that bullshit is because the Pistons found a loophole in the 80s and exploited it. And you saw, once the NBA clinked up that bullshit brand of basketball the Pistons were playing, they were no fucking more. No more championship. No more bad boys. And these niggas couldn't just play regular basketball and compete. Yeah, we want you to be physical and all that shit. We want you to have edge. We want you to come out here and really compete. But y'all doing too much. And you saw when they couldn't do too much anymore, the niggas was right back to being trash and mediocre like they were before they put that team together and went on their little championship run. Because I'd say Isiah Thomas wouldn't have won a championship at all in the 80s if it wasn't for that loophole they found in the late 80s and exploited it. And if it wasn't for Michael Jordan finally coming around and honestly saving the NBA. Yeah, I guess you could say Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. They did. They saved the NBA. I don't think the NBA ever needed to be saved, but I wasn't around back in the 60s, 70s. I was born in 1985. But Jordan took everything to another level. And these niggas was trying to ruin that because they were jealous of the motherfucker. And mainly Isiah Thomas. On top of Isiah Thomas being a gang leader, if any leader, and being overrated, this nigga was a jealous, weak-ass nigga. He was jealous of Michael Jordan, damn near jealous of Magic Johnson, jealous of Larry Bird, insecure little jealous nigga. That's what he was. Fuck out of here with this nigga. And his jump shot wasn't shit. It wasn't better than Isiah Thomas Jr. Isiah Thomas Jr. And on top of that, you give Isiah Thomas Jr. the ball in the clutch, he gonna take it home. Isiah Thomas averaged what? 19.2 points a game. Isiah Thomas Jr. averaged 17. and didn't even play. How many years did Isaiah Thomas Jr. play? Let me bring that up. Isaiah, because their names are both spelled stupid. Isaiah Thomas played 12 years. So around the same amount of time. Isaiah Thomas averaged 28 points a game one year. And also, his closest to winning the MVP was 5th place. 17 points a game, 4 assists. And I think Isaiah Thomas led the league in steals one time. Never led the league in points, never led the league in assists. He led the league in steals one time at 2 a game, I believe. And I'll go back here in a second. But if you had put Isaiah Thomas on the right team or let him lead you like the Celtics, Isaiah Thomas would have won a championship, because he was a winner. If he didn't get hurt, he damn near would have had the Celtics in the finals, leading the team. And the team didn't have to push motherfuckers on the ground. I mean, they couldn't. But you know what I mean. They didn't have to push motherfuckers on the ground and damn near break a motherfucker arm, break a motherfucker limb to win. That's some bullshit, bro. Like I said, I can't believe those games finished. It should have got to the point where there were brawls every night the Pistons played to where they couldn't finish the games. But that's how the NBA was back in the day. And they found a loophole and exploited it. Because like I said, motherfuckers can easily play like that. Other people. But we like, man, who the fuck is thinking to play like that? That's bullshit. Nigga, if somebody get hurt and we out here being physical, that's on some flow of the game, incidental shit. These niggas are deliberately trying to hurt motherfuckers. Get the fuck out of here, man. That's the only reason why the Pistons won those 2 championships. And like I said, when the NBA cleaned that shit up, the Pistons were no more. Get the fuck out of here with the 1980s Detroit Pistons, the bad boys Pistons. In that last season with Boston, 2016-17, Isaiah Thomas averaged 28 points a game and 5 assists. And like I said, had the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. And had he not got hurt, they damn near would have made it to the finals. In that playoffs, in the playoffs, in that playoff series, he averaged 23 points a game and 6 assists. The year before that, he averaged 24 points a game and 5 assists. The year before that, he averaged 17 a game and 7 assists. And this is a guy that's 5'9" and actually leading the team. Isaiah Thomas was 6'2" and wasn't a fucking leader at all. Somebody who could dribble well and played on a team that's dubbed the Bad Boys. That's why everybody thinks he's so fucking great. Yeah, he was a good player. Even a great player. But he's overrated. And yes, Isaiah Thomas Jr. is way better than him. The fuck out of here. You put Isaiah Thomas Jr. on that Detroit Pistons team with that team, they'll probably win more than 2 championships in the 80s. Not the late 80s going into the 90s. Where you done played most of your fucking career. And you damn near older than all the younger players now. And you found a loophole in the system. Man, get the fuck out of here. That's why that's why this nigga wasn't on the dream team. Because didn't nobody fuck with him. And who cares if Michael Jordan... I don't blame Michael Jordan for not wanting to play with this nigga. Or others. And John Stockton did deserve to be on that team. Yeah? John Stockton, perennial, leading the league in assists, all-star. Playing 82 games a season. Not missing a game. Especially what he was drafted in 84, 85, one of them. In his stint in the 80s, he didn't miss a game. He missed 4 games. 78 games, I want to say, in one of those seasons. After that, in the late 90s, he only played 64 in 97, 98. Other than that, he's playing every game of every season, going to the playoffs every year of his career, and leading the league in assists damn near what, 7, 8 times in a row. Isiah Thomas Sr. ain't never led the league in assists. I'm sorry, he led the league in assists one time at 13.9. And John Stockton came into the league after him. And like I said, John Stockton led the league in assists way more at the point guard position and made the playoffs every year of his career. But we ain't going to talk about John Stockton right now. I just wanted to make it a point that, yes, John Stockton deserved to be on that team before Isiah Thomas. Isiah Thomas was basically a bitch-ass nigga, and everybody knew it, nigga. The only motherfuckers that fucked with him was his teammates. He is a jealous, lame, controversial little nigga from Chicago who really, in my opinion, was mentally unstable. He's a weirdo, in my opinion. He has this nice, sweet demeanor, it seems like. Then he gets on the court and acts stupid. He's weirder than fucking Draymond Green or Dennis Rodman. And it's funny because him and Dennis Rodman played together. But that's the thing, man. That's the type of team they had. And the Pistons were a good team. But they weren't a great team like that. The only reason why they seemed like they were great and the only reason why people consider them great is because they won 2 championships. And again, they only won those 2 championships because they found a loophole in the system and exploited it. Them niggas would have never won them championships if referees in the NBA really held them accountable for the way they were playing. They were playing bullshit basketball. A bullshit brand of basketball. And that's why other motherfuckers was like, what the fuck is going on, man? But yeah, man. Isiah Thomas Jr. is better than Isiah Thomas Sr. Better shooter, cooler head, more clutch. And if Isiah Thomas played in an era where they appreciated players like him, and they didn't discriminate because of size, then Isiah Thomas would have had just as good a career, if not better, than Isiah Thomas Sr. You know, they say some players were born in the wrong era or born too soon, born too late, that type of thing. That's all it was with IT Jr. He was just born too late. If he played in the 80s, 90s, he would be way more appreciated and way more accepted in regards to teams really believing in him, having him as their starting point guard and putting the ball in his hands and saying, lead the team. Even Tim Hardaway was only like 6'1", 6'2". I don't understand how his son's so tall. That's weird. But players in the 80s and 90s, or teams in the 80s and 90s, they believed in the little man. Even in the 2000s with Allen Iverson. You know what I'm saying? Nate Robinson. He even got, you know what I'm saying, a little shine out there because Nate Robinson was an amazing athlete. But as you can see, all the shit that he done blocked niggas shot. I think he blocked LeBron shot. He done blocked goddamn Yao Ming shot. He done dunked on niggas out there hooping. They didn't even believe in him. Cut his career short because he wasn't big enough. That is the only reason why motherfuckers think that IT Jr. is not better than Isiah Thomas from the 80s. They played in a different time. And if you put Isiah Thomas Sr. against Isiah Thomas Jr. in their prime, on everything, Isiah Thomas Jr. will give him the business. Isiah Thomas Sr. will be out there trying to fight him or trying to intimidate him. That would be his only edge, I guess. But Isaiah Thomas Jr. would just keep a cool head and keep playing with a very skilled, well-paced, deceptive game. Isaiah Thomas Sr. would have just been out there dribbling fast, threw his legs behind his back real fast, and then try to drive for some. Man, get the fuck out of here. You get that shit blocked. Dribbling 100 miles an hour. Man, I don't know if I play like that. You sorry ass nigga. You were a good player, but you were way overrated. And yes, Isaiah Thomas Jr. was better than Isaiah Thomas Sr. That's all I got, man.